I've recently got hooked on Monster Hunter World again because I got hyped by the Monster Hunter Wilds trailer, so my demented chromosomes decided to bundle up and make a short review for my beloved cock and bow torture simulator. This is Monster Hunter World, where you wield 14 types of unique and quirky instruments of mass destruction to obliterate monsters until submission or die trying. By instruments of mass destruction, I meant in a literal sense. You can play an instrument as your weapon in this game. The game consists of a simple gameplay loop. Find monsters, ask yourself, wow, that's cool looking, but why isn't it extinct yet? Find out the reason the hard way. But the fur would look good on my fucking ukulele, so extinction is not a choice, but a matter of when and how. If God doesn't want me to break the ecological balance, then why did he make the monsters to be made out of clothes? Break every single one of their body parts and watch as they scream in horror while you coldly chase them down. Use materials gained to make better monster hunting gear. Face stronger and more eccentric monsters. A destructive toxic relationship that lasts till the end of time. The loop of fighting crackheads and becoming stronger is one as old as your mother, got 'em. But it's not just as simple as stat increases. Though your weapon's moveset will remain the same throughout the whole game, you will learn to utilize every inch of your weapon. You will learn how to position yourself, watch the surroundings, and learn how to not get too greedy. You will become a competent hunter, either by experience or sheer peer pressure after you caught 3 times in a row, and your entire team is spamming the disappointed emo like an Asian father. Though simple, this loop is addicting as fentanyl to a heroin addict. That is to say, fentanyl is 15 times stronger than heroin. You either love it or you'll instantly be overstimulated and die. But to a passion-pilled young man like me, this is my legalized drug and I absolutely love and adore it. With your own unique choice of weapon, you are able to slay, beat, shoot, dunk, piss, and incinerate monsters at the crematorium. To understand Monster Hunter, it is essential to understand the weapons. Many people like to compare the weapons on a tier list based on how strong they are, but they are all objectively incorrect. The correct tier list would be how much each weapon feminizes you and pumps estrogen directly into your veins until you're indoctrinated into a Chinese fanboy. I will not elaborate on this. I will proceed to explain to you what every weapon does in around 30 seconds or so. The heavy bow gun is for the people who doesn't want to play the game. The dual blade is a fast-flowing weapon that grants high mobility with quick attacks. Thus, the number one thing that dual blades player fear the most is commitment. And if their girlfriend proposes to them, they will immediately dash away like an autistic child, screaming at the top of their lungs of how unfair it is that they get stuck in place for 2 seconds for an attack. This is a metaphor because that would imply Monster Hunter players engage with females. The charge blade is one of the simplest weapons in this game, and it is extremely beginner friendly. You hit enemies to charge energy, then you charge your shield with that energy, then you can charge your blade, or use more powerful axe moves. I honestly have no idea why some people say it's complicated. The switch axe is another one of the simplest weapons in this game, and it is extremely beginner friendly. You have an axe that does damage. You can switch the axe to do more damage, but at the cost of lower mobility. Hit people with sword to charge the sword. Sword charge do more damage. Very simple, very demure. The hammer is a weapon that is a hammer. Hit monsters in the head until chronic traumatic encephalopathy and break its skull with a 200-ton rock. What more do you want? Also, I heard if you main this weapon, you'll be kidnapped at 3 AM to join a cult, so watch out for that. The heavy bow gun is for people who don't want to play the game. The longsword is a fast weapon that has mobility, iframe counters, big damage, and low commitment. I would make a weeb joke, but that horse is deader than a handler if she had a hitbox. Honestly, just use this weapon if you want. Life is hard. Don't feel judged for what weapons you play. The game is called Monster Hunter, not Monster Gatekeeper. Unless I see you bring that bitch to a Kirin hunt, then I will personally hunt you down in the middle of the night and repeatedly trip you every time you try to fall asleep, or hit you with a stick whenever you go into big anime titties and stop you from ever ejaculating to simulate how I feel when I can't zero-sum discharge over the monster's mouth. The bow is the only ranged weapon you play if you actually want to play the game, unlike what Japan wants you to believe. People who wield bows are not cute, skinny-armed elf archers. Their image in real life more or less resembles a 7-feet-tall Mongolian man, big enough to crush my head between their biceps. The team at Capcom decided to accurately portray this by making steroids not only a prerequisite, but an obligation as well. Because as soon as you get a taste of that dash juice, there is no going back. The heavy bowgun is for the people who don't want to play the game. The hunting horn is a weapon that I do not understand, and thus I cannot summarize for you. I think it's like playing rock music. But the rock is a physical object they hit your head with. But honestly, I've got zero clues. The sword and shield is a weapon for people named John or like Pokemon a bit too much. In that case, you should go back to your Monster Hunter Stories goblin hole. In a world where killing with a glorified record is normalized, this weapon is just so normal. I bet people who play Sword and Shield have a stable marriage, no strange addictions, and an extended warranty for their car. The bow guns are guns that have nothing to do with bows. Play the heavy bow gun if you hate yourself or you're a speedrunner. Play the light bow gun instead, because you don't want the stigma associated with the heavy bow guns. The great sword is a hammer for people who think they're better than everyone else, or people who just really like Berserk, I guess. Wait to charge. Wait to charge again. Wait to charge again. Miss. Continue the edging cycle until you eventually hit something, preferably the enemy. The gun lance is a weapon that I don't understand, because I am not American. I grew up with Tesco meal deals. How the fuck am I supposed to know what a mile is? The lance is a weapon that I don't understand. I'm also pretty sure that lance player don't exist. The only reason it's still in Monster Hunter is because Fujioka likes it. Unless you can prove me wrong. Come on, prove you exist by typing the numbers on your mother's credit card, the expiry date, and the 3 numbers on the back. The insect glaive used to be my main, but Wild cancelling its aerial was the last straw for me to switch to Bloodborne on PC. First, they made aerial damage shit, and I did not speak out because I do not care about damage. Then, they went for its unique aerial weapon identity, and I did not speak out because I just cared about having fun as an attack helicopter. Then they came for me, and there is no one left to speak out for me. All that remains is cock-sucking, dick-riding, meat-choking reddices who proclaim that they don't mind because ground combos do more damage anyways. Aside from these interesting weapons, you also have a ton of gadgets you can use to simulate that authentic Rainbow Six Siege experience. From invisibility to fucking instant death for stupid people. Flashbangs, literal shit, and my personal favorite, improvised explosive device to cosplay as my favorite Unabomber. Speaking of domestic terrorism, I would like to introduce you to how I personally play the game. I like to call it the hyperbolic dumbass drill. The switch axe has an attack called the zero-sum discharge. It goes something like this. Very normal. If you do it at the incorrect time, you will be punished. Just to clarify, the incorrect time is every time. However, the rock-steady mental and the temporal mental exist for a reason. By using protections like a responsible person, we can remain ZSDing whilst being hit. Use Lunastra's set bonus to decrease the cooldown by 50%. And now, you have 50% uptime on becoming an unstoppable drill. Unless they kill you, which will make you die, and that's not very good. So to fix the problem of pre-ejaculative mortality, we employ healing unhit. And because the healing depends on how much damage you do, employ Weakness Exploit 3, a few levels of critical eye, and you'll be gaining more health than you lose. Or alternatively, you can play the game not like a crackhead and do anything else. This game has 2 distinct modes, Code Sigma mode, where you hunt monsters alone, or Friendship Fallout mode, where you can play with your friends until they cut 3 times and now you're former friends. But who are you kidding? You are a monster hunter. Monster hunters have no friends, so instead, you can use the SOS flare to call in additional support. Calling the SOS flare, you'll either encounter normal people or the interesting personalities that this game has to offer. It's hard to explain, so I'll give you an actual example that I encountered in this game. This is Lunastra, a powerful Elder Dragon girl boss. So to deal with her, I shot my SOS flare and soon enough, a Chinese player in shining Fatalis armor and another Japanese dual blade player came to the rescue. The first thing the man in full Fatalis armor said was, "Meow, don't fret, little one. I'm here to help you with my Fatalis hunting horn, kidda." Now, my name is John Hunter, and my region is not China. So, I don't know why he has the pre-assumption that I can't speak Chinese. But more importantly, why? Why would you send this? Not knowing how to respond to the statement, I just summed up, and the Japanese dual-blade player sent his first of many question mark emoticons. Then the Chinese man proceeds to not join the fight for a whopping 10 minutes. The reason? He exclaimed, "I'm going to lure that Devi-jo over here to trigger a turf war." Meow. Fun fact, Devi-jo does not have a turf war with Lunastra. So now we've not only got a girl boss, but also a glorified big black cock spitting pickle juice all over the place. Then he proceeded to get carded twice and profusely apologized. Of course, with a Mao at the end of every apology, and the Japanese player was just there, spamming question marks. To de-escalate this insanity, I comforted the Japanese player in Japanese and told him that the Chinese fanboy was saying how good he is. Then I turned around to the Chinese fanboy, because now they're breaking down in disbelief of how trash they are. So I comforted him in Chinese, all while the Japanese player is still spamming question marks like a fucking lobotomite. So I politely told him to shut the fuck up in Japanese. And then they both got caught by the same Lunastra supernova and the quest failed and I want to fucking die. Guys, I lied. Monster Hunter is not an erotic role-playing game. So please don't say your custom message of whenever someone get carded to the dragon is knocking him out to bring him back as a sex slave. This is not a cry for help. This is a warning. The next time I see a Chinese man that pretends to be a fucking cap whale, intentionally cut 3 times and choke you through the internet. Instead, Monster Hunter is actually a spin-off to the renowned game Dress to Impress on Roblox.com, where the goal is actually to make yourself to look as pretty as possible. And don't forget the cat customization, because cats are cute, and there's no joke. I just think Pelico's really cute. Aww, look at you little thing. Aww, who's a good little boy. Monsters all have unique, wild, but kind of believable designs that sort of resembles real-life biology. If biology meant putting a fuck-off murder weapon on an existing creature, or just Chinese mythical creatures, each monster have their appropriate weakness that the hunter can exploit. The Ice Dragon is weak to fire, the Fire Dragon is weak to dragon and fire, and Black Wukong is weak to Mesophinidate. Of course, all of them are weak to the Blast ailment, which are just explosives strapped to a comically large stick, except for Altrarion, the elemental fluid dragon's weak to good game design. As a good hunter, it is essential to use environment to give your upper hand, or use the environment to give your downer hand, and end up in Nutty Putty Cave. With at least 2 different maps to explore, Monster Hunter World is the first game to explore the deep ecology of the Monster Hunter world. The ancient forest is a locale consisting of lush greenery, a dense canopy of trees, a lot of flora, and more fucking trees. It's a forest, what do you want? If the Ohio Corn Maze is your favorite tour destination, you'll probably like this place. The creature here includes the Great Jaguaress, which is a glorified punching bag, known for its unique ability of inflating its stomach and spitting out its vore victim as an attack. It's certainly a unique creature, just don't search up Great Jaguaress inflation. Trust me, I've seen things. You've also got Tobi Kadachi, which has skins that make a really great scarf. But above all of that, you've got the apex child predator of the region, Raslos. The young red dragon has an armor class of 18, it's chaotic evil, and has 17 D10 plus 85 hit points. It also has a stinger that can poison you, you know, like a bee. There's also the Wellspire Waste, which is a desert, but it's a swamp. You've got fish, Diabolos, and the indigenous people, a wisdom from the future. If you're going to kill indigenous people, kill all of them. Don't leave some alive, or they may demand rights future down the line. Honestly, I'd call that a skill issue. Pretend I didn't say anything, just look at the waterfall, wow. Coral Highlands is Bikini Bottom. If World War II was won by Emperor Hirohito instead, the Japanese took over the world and turned it to a comically large rice paddy field. As a result, water supplies are down, and every creature, includes you and me, gets force-fed 20 pounds of glue. In this interesting location, there's the twang twang, there's the and the very interesting. And I blew so hard. I'm feeling dizzy right now because of the lack of ox. Anyways, the Rotten Vale is a dumping ground consisting of dead bodies and literal feces. You've got Clifford the Big Red Odogaron and shit-eating Elder Dragon. Really cool, Capcom. Thanks for the inclusivity. No other Japanese companies are willing to adopt the poo-poo fetish community. Elder Recess is a place with lava and Nerugigante. His name is pronounced Nerugigante, and in Japanese it's Nerugigante, just because the name has a N, a G, an A, and an I does not mean you get to say it as a hard R. I know it turns black and does drive-bys, but please refrain yourself on my Christian YouTube channel. You might be wondering, wow, this game is pretty cool, but what about the story? Right, look at the food though. Here's a warning, to enjoy this game to its fullest, please do not use the defender gear. unless you've already played this game once and are starting a new save for some reason. Using the defender gear will completely ruin your experience. The defender gear is so strong, you basically eliminate the progression for the entire game, or half the game if you don't have the Iceborne DLC. That means not only half the key gameplay loop is just missing, it also means you can't learn how to get strong. Monster Hunter is not an easy game, but it does do a pretty good job at gradually progressing you through a relatively natural difficulty curve. But by using defender armor, you'll be able to brute force through everything until Iceborne, and then the defender armor will be outclassed for the very first time, and you haven't learned a single thing at all. This is like putting a spoiled child that's been living in a gated neighborhood all their life into Detroit. I played this game 3 times, in 2018, 2019 and 2022, but I only really got into Monster Hunter this year when I realized that you aren't supposed to use the defender armor because the game gets boring real quick if half the gameplay loop of making the gear gets cut out. One of my friends used the defender armor, and he got jumped by a group of men when visiting Bolivia because he didn't learn how to position himself against the local cartel and failed to read the obvious telegraph of reaching into their pockets. I had to fish him out from the Madeira River and place his mutilated corpse on a cart. Speaking of dead people, do you like gambling? Good, because then you'll love this game. In the same fashion as Genshin Impact, this game asks you to roll dogshit RNG to get decorations, so you may grind hours at the end to get that fabled attack jewel and never get it anyways. My personal recommendations are, do not farm decorations intentionally, as that will destroy you both physically and mentally. A guide is useful for explaining the bullshit the game doesn't tell you, but don't ever grind to replicate that exact build. Substitute that bitch for a defense boost instead. If a Monster Hunter elitist criticizes you for having no damage and therefore made a dogshit build, just know they have a tumor in their head and miners in their bed. You know why New York bans bulletproof vests, but not firearms so irrational heavy bowgun players can shoot up the nearest daycare? It's because they hold the unspoken truth. They know how to make a based Monster Hunter build. As famous war general Sun Tzu said, the death offense is a good defense. You can't keep mowing down the innocent if you're dead first. Monster Hunter also features a lot of endgame content like the Guiding Lens, which is a trap bigger than Stouffer and Kanzaki combined. Even after several fixes, this shitty place is still a waste of your fucking time. I'm aware that's kind of why the Guiding Lens exists, to provide hundreds of hours of extra gameplay to get endgame upgrades. But when the most effective method of upgrading the lens is to stalk a bird and sniff its footprint for an hour straight, I think there might be a problem. Don't get me wrong, my brain is addicted to the cycle of killing monsters and getting stronger, but my benzodiazepine supplies are running low, and I'm remembering my worst nightmare of playing an MMORPG, where you do the same thing over and over again, just for a small number increase. I refuse to be classically conditioned into Pavlov's dog, where meaningless stat increase will become the dictator of my life, where my brain involuntarily produces dopamine, just at the thought of doing more damage, just so I can grind faster, in order to grind faster, so I can grind faster. Reality is often grim, where meaning isn't inherently given to everyone, so in order to numb our brains, we distance ourselves from what is a mess that we call our existence. Some choose to play MMORPGs. Seeing the number goes up proves that we are actually capable of something. This is a self-destructive cycle of escapism. When a game gets so reductive and repetitive, the joy is produced from the cycles of numbers getting larger alone. It becomes no different than an actual addiction. We are grasping for that moment of fleeting satisfaction, but we have gained nothing from it. The punchline is me grinding 10 hours for 10% more crit rate. This game truly offers something for everyone. Deliberate animal skinning to piss off PETA activists. Fashion dressing for her inner little princess. Very adorable feline customization for Necopara enjoyers. And mods for people who gun to wyverns with a cock. I'm sorry, future child of mine. There were no eggs at the end of that tunnel. Only a digital display of a handler with a bunny suit. Life is a strange series of deceptions. And sometimes through modding, even the most estranged characters can become someone's crush. Maybe this is why some Monster Hunter players are perpetually stuck in a state of horniness. Anyways, this game is incredibly rewarding and addicting, and it's slowly ruining my life. This is right before the release of the new game Monster Hunter Wilds, which I will definitely make a video about. This is a great time to get into the Monster Hunter franchise, and World is probably the best starting point. It's very fun, very artistic. This game gets a 3 out of 3 in my book, as that is how much time I have cutted in this co-op session.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.